It gave Lewis that opportunity to get a free pit stop. It's been a challenging couple of weekends now for us as a team. McLaren are mighty impressive, and Ferrari's race pace today also looked really strong.
George Russell has dropped a bombshell, and it comes with a warning that could spell serious trouble for Mercedes heading into Monza. The Silver Arrows are no longer sitting comfortably at the front of the Formula One pack. Their early season advantage is slipping away race by race, and now their own driver is sounding the alarm in public. Russell says Mercedes must find more performance. They must bring upgrades, or they risk losing serious ground at the Italian Grand Prix on a circuit where every tenth of a second matters. But that is not even the biggest threat lurking in the shadows. Ferrari are reportedly preparing an engine upgrade that could completely reshape the pecking order right on their home turf. And according to Russell himself, there is one team that stands above them all right now in this championship fight. McLaren. Lando Norris is in the form of his life. Back-to-back victories, a driver who looks unstoppable heading into the second half of the season, and Russell is not holding back about just how dangerous McLaren has become. Is Mercedes staring down a must-win weekend at Monza? Let us break down exactly what George Russell said and why it should worry the entire Silver Arrows garage. To understand why Russell is worried, you have to look closely at what has happened over the last 2 race weekends. McLaren has won back-to-back Grand Prix, first at the Hungaroring, then again at Zandvoort. 2 completely different circuits, 2 very different technical challenges. And the exact same result both times. Lando Norris standing on the top step of the podium. This is not a coincidence, and it is not luck. McLaren rolled out a major upgrade package at the Hungarian Grand Prix, and rather than resting on their laurels after that first win, they doubled down immediately. Another batch of new components arrived just 1 week later at the Dutch Grand Prix, and the results were just as emphatic. The numbers speak for themselves. 2 wins in a row, 2 statements of intent, and a Mercedes team that is now watching its championship cushion evaporate in real time, weekend after weekend. For Russell, this is not just about losing a couple of races here and there. It is about the trajectory of the entire season. McLaren is not slowing down. They are accelerating, both literally and figuratively, at exactly the wrong moment for their title rivals. And that is a genuinely alarming pattern for any team hoping to close the gap. Speaking to media, including Racing News 365 ahead of the Italian Grand Prix, Russell did not sugarcoat the situation facing his team. He acknowledged that Monza's characteristics should, on paper, favor Mercedes' package more than the tracks they have just struggled at over the last 2 rounds. I think we will be slightly more competitive there, Russell said. But, and this is the key part of his message, competition does not mean safety. Russell understands better than almost anyone that a slightly more competitive Mercedes does not automatically translate into a race win, or even a comfortable podium if their rivals show up with something new and unexpected. And that is exactly the problem heading into this weekend, because Mercedes is not just fighting the version of McLaren that beat them twice already this season. They are also bracing for an entirely different threat, one that could arrive without much warning at all. Here is where things get even more complicated for Mercedes, and for Russell personally. Russell revealed that Ferrari are believed to be bringing an engine upgrade to Monza, their home race, in front of a passionate tifosi crowd at a circuit where power unit performance can genuinely make or break an entire weekend. However, I believe Ferrari have an engine upgrade incoming, and the truth is, we just don't know. Russell admitted candidly. That last line is telling. We just don't know. This is a Mercedes driver openly conceding in public that his team is walking into Monza with incomplete information about one of their closest championship rivals. Monza is one of the most power-sensitive circuits on the entire calendar. Long straights, minimal downforce, and a premium placed on raw straight-line speed above almost everything else. If Ferrari genuinely has a step forward in engine performance ready to deploy, it could completely upend the competitive order and do it on the one weekend where Ferrari has every possible incentive to unleash it in front of their home fans. For Mercedes, that means preparing not just for McLaren's growing momentum, but for a potential Ferrari surprise as well. 2 fronts to defend, 2 separate threats to track, and only 1 crucial race weekend to figure it all out. Despite all the uncertainty surrounding Ferrari, Russell was completely unambiguous about where he currently ranks the rest of the competition. I do believe that these high-degradation circuits really suit McLaren very well, and especially Lando, Russell explained. He's always been a bit of a specialist specialist in those conditions. We also saw it last year. That is a significant admission coming from a title rival. Russell is not just praising a car here, he is praising a driver's very specific skill set, one that has now delivered results across multiple circuits and multiple seasons in a row. Then came the line that will likely define this entire storyline heading into Monza. Monza may be slightly different, but I think they are the team to beat right now. Not Ferrari, not even his own team, Mercedes McLaren. That is about as direct a verdict as you will ever hear from a rival driver in Formula One. Russell is not hedging his bets, and he is not playing political games with the media. He is naming, clearly and specifically, the team he genuinely believes is currently the benchmark in this championship fight. So where does all of this leave Mercedes heading into the Italian Grand Prix? On one hand, Russell believes the characteristics of Monza should suit their car noticeably better than Hungary or Zandvoort did. That is a genuine reason for cautious optimism inside the Mercedes camp. On the other hand, he has openly flagged two separate and serious threats.
Yeah, emotions are they're fine, to be honest. You know, I come away from this weekend as a whole satisfied. It's been my best weekend for quite a while, and I'll take those positives. I think that first VSC towards the end sort of came at a tough point because it gave Lewis that opportunity to get a free pit stop. Kimi was really struggling on the hard tyre, and I was catching him, just before he got overtaken by Lando. So at that point in the race, I was like, I think P2 is on the cards here. And then, of course, we split the strategies at the end, and P3 was probably a fair result.
George Russell breaks his silence after the Dutch GP, and this time he has raised serious questions about both Mercedes' strategy and Ferrari's approach. According to Russell, Lewis Hamilton could have made more progress if Charles Leclerc had allowed him through, but instead, Hamilton remained stuck behind the Ferrari, costing valuable time. Russell's point was simple. If Mercedes had handled its own drivers the same way, Kimi Antonelli would never have reached P2. With Antonelli on fresher tires, Mercedes followed its team policy and inverted the positions, allowing Kimi to move ahead. Now, Russell's comments have put the spotlight on whether Ferrari's strategy actually cost Hamilton and potentially gave Mercedes an advantage. To understand why this controversy has exploded the way it has, you need to look at both sides of this story side by side, because Zandvoort gave us two nearly identical situations, handled in two completely different ways. Start with Mercedes, because this is the benchmark everyone is now measuring Ferrari against. In the closing laps of the race, Kimi Antonelli was running on significantly fresher tires than his teammate George Russell, and he had a genuine shot at attacking race leader Lando Norris for the win. Mercedes didn't deliberate. They didn't go back and forth on the radio. Russell was told to move aside. And within moments, Antonelli was through and hunting down Norris. Russell has been completely transparent about why this happened without hesitation. As he explained afterward, it comes down to a standing team policy. We've always said as a team, when we're on different strategies, we're never going to fight, and we're always going to invert, and that's always just been our sort of rules, he said. In other words, this wasn't an in-the-moment judgment call for Mercedes. It was a pre-agreed principle that both drivers had already accepted long before Zandvoort. That policy put Russell in a difficult spot. The moment he handed second place to Antonelli, he had Hamilton and Leclerc closing in behind on fresher rubber, both sensing an opportunity. Russell had to defend, alone with tires well past their best, against two cars that were faster in that specific moment. He held them off, helped by a late virtual safety car for debris at turn 5, and crossed the line in third. Reflecting on it afterward, Russell was refreshingly honest about how close it actually was. Could I have kept him behind? Maybe, but equally it could have been a P5 as well, he admitted, acknowledging that defending against two quicker cars was never a guarantee. In the end, he called third a fair result, and Antonelli's second place extended his championship lead further. Now look at Ferrari, because this is where the comparison turns damaging. Hamilton found himself in almost the exact same scenario. Antonelli was in a clear tire advantage over his own teammate, with position and momentum on the line. But instead of an immediate call, Ferrari hesitated. Hamilton asked to be released after passing Piastri for 5th, and the response was delay after delay. When the team did eventually call Leclerc in, Leclerc stayed out for another lap before finally pitting on lap 43. By that point, Hamilton's tire advantage, the entire reason he should have been let through in the first place, had been eaten away. This is the exact comparison Hamilton made himself after the race. Mercedes had a clear philosophy: never fight, always invert on different strategies, and their drivers understood and executed it instantly. Ferrari, by contrast, appeared to have no equivalent clarity in the moment it mattered most. Hamilton put it bluntly to F1 TV: "I want to win."